Hello everyone and welcome back to Arctic Retro. In this video I'm gonna do some upgrades to my Amiga 1200. In the last video you saw how I did some restoration work, recapping and fixing the keyboard, and then I was able to load games and stuff from a floppy disk. However, I want to have a hard drive in this machine, so that's one of the things I'm gonna do in this video. Alright, let's get right to it then and see how we can improve this wonderful machine. Let me just take a moment here and thank my sponsor PCBWay. They are sponsoring this video, and I got a lot of PCBs produced by them, which I found on their shared project site, and I must say the quality is really good, so I can really recommend PCBWay. If you visit PCBWay.com, you can upload your Gerber files and get an instant quote on producing your PCBs, and the prices are really affordable. Besides PCB manufacturing, they can also do CNC machining and 3D printing, including injection molding. They also do PCB assembly and advanced PCB. So go ahead and visit PCBWay.com and check out their services. As you saw in the previous video, this machine now fully works. It has the 3.0 ROM and a built-in floppy drive. And now I'm gonna install a hard drive into this machine. For installing a hard drive, I have two different options here. I'm gonna check out both. The first one is this simple CF to IDE adapter. And I also have a Workbench 3.1 CF card. This is pre-installed with Workbench, so it's yeah, you simply just connect it and it should boot from this. The other solution here is a buffered CF to IDE adapter. You can see it has these small chips down here, buffer chips, and I also got an Amiga OS 3.2.1 Workbench, so I'm gonna check out that as well. Not really sure if I need 3.2 ROMs then. We'll figure that out, but first of all let's check out this one. And I'm gonna test it with this IDE adapter here and see if we can do some benchmarking, see if we get any speed from this one. Installing a hard drive on this machine is very straightforward. You have the IDE connector here and you just plug it right in. While that fits very well into the contact here and the slot, it's not good that it just lies around, flapping around like this. And how do you mount it? You could of course glue it down like this or something, but yeah, on the original Amiga there were this bracket here where you mounted the hard drive on top, and there's something you can print for that if you don't have the original. However, I found this little thingy here on Thingiverse. This is designed for holding a CF card adapter like this with a short IDE cable. Let's see if I can manage to install this. You place the end of the IDE connector on that side, push it down, and then you bend the cable over like that, and then the adapter goes in here. Yeah, but that was pretty neat design. Well, it seems that this CF card holder thingy was designed to be used without the RF shielding, so it didn't fit, but I simply took the Dremel and cut away a little bit on both sides, and now it should fit. It's not optimal, but yeah, it stays there and it's, yeah, quite sturdy, secured now. Okay, now let's see if it boots up from the hard drive. Wow, that was quick. If you don't count the time when the machine powered on, I think it was like 2 seconds from the kickstart kicked in until Workbench was loaded. All right, we're in Cloanto Personal Paint, and yeah, everything seems to work very well. It's snappy and yeah, very performant. There's a few games already on this hard drive and a lot of demos. No, besides Workbench itself and a few games and demos and a few tools, there's not much on this hard drive. And to be able to run sysinfo or other tools, I need to copy something, and I don't have that on floppy, so I need to find somewhere to download. So I have this Gotek floppy emulator here. You could of course install it in the machine itself, then you could boot from it, but I have attached it now as external floppy drive DF1, and yeah, I'm gonna find sysinfo and a couple of other things to put on this memory stick here. So here I got sysinfo. So let's check the speed of this machine. I mean, it's not particularly interesting. I already know the speed. So yeah, we're about 1.04 faster than Amiga 1200. Okay, so the thing is, I want to upgrade this machine to become faster. Let's check the drives then and check the speed on the hard drive. It's in 3 partitions. Let's check the speed now on partition 1. And yeah, it's about 1 megabyte per second. Not really fast, but I mean, for an Amiga, it's pretty fast. All right, so that was that CF adapter. But this is not really the one I want to use in this machine. I want to use this one. However, I'm not sure if it fits, because it too is meant to be used without the shielding. So I am wondering whether I should just remove the whole shielding thing and don't use it anymore. I decided to remove the RF shield and go without it. It's so much easier to work on a machine when that's gone, and now suddenly things start to fit into this machine. Yeah, and that's a much better fit, and the same hard drive in. So I just wanted to see if it's faster to use these buffered CF adapters than the one I had before. So that booted up just fine, so no problems with that. Let's run sysinfo again. No, it's exactly the same, so there were no speed gain from having a buffered CF card adapter. Well, I kind of expected that, because buffering is more to improve the reliability, and if you have a long IDE cable and you don't have a buffered IDE adapter, then you might get some problems. Okay, that was a little bit Workbench 3.1, and I want to test out 3.2. As I said, I might need upgraded ROM for that, the 3.2 version. We'll see if this will boot. Nope, it didn't. Well, that was kind of expected. The thing is, I forgot to buy the 3.2 ROMs, and without those you can't run the 3.2 Amiga OS. So I just have to stay with Workbench 3.1 then. By the way, did you know that when you turn on the machine and hold in both the mouse buttons, you go into a boot menu. So with a hard drive and you have set boot priority to that, and you have a floppy disk that you want to boot from, you need to go here and select the boot device. So now it says DF1. That means if I have a bootable floppy disk in the machine, it will boot from that. Alright, so while buying a ready-made CF card like this with Workbench and everything set up from Amiga store is easy and yeah, in fact quite cheap. That might not be the thing you want. You might want to set it up from scratch, and let's say you have an Amiga 1200 with no hard drive, just a floppy drive, and you have an empty CF card and you bought the CF to IDE adapter. How do you install the hard drive, and how do you install Workbench onto it? So that's what I thought we're gonna take a look at next. So let's start by actually formatting the hard drive and see how that goes. Instead, I'm gonna go in and delete the partitions. Skip the siste. Okay, all the partitions are deleted. Let's see what happens now. Save changes to drive. Yeah, it will destroy all 3 partitions. Yes, now it's gone. To set up the hard drive and install a Workbench, you actually need the Workbench floppy disks, either on real floppies or on a Gotek drive. And you also need to be able to boot from it. On my USB memory stick, I have copied Workbench 3.1 installation floppy disks. I have downloaded the ADF files for that. You can find them many places. You just have to figure out that yourself. And yeah, normally on Amiga 500s and 2000 you can't boot from the external floppy drive DF1. In that case, I would simply have attached the Gotek as the internal floppy drive. However, while booting the machine and clicking both mouse buttons, you can select to boot from DF1. And of course, now I had selected the sysinfo floppy disk, so it booted from that, but I now revert to floppy disk image number 0, which should be Amiga Workbench 3.1 installation disk number 1. Yeah, there you go. Here we have install 3.1. But before we install, we need to set up the hard drive, and here's some HD setup and HD tools. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is to partition the hard drive. Before it had 3 partitions. I think it's enough with 2, one for the system and one for installing games and software. So normally for IDE hard drives, A1200 HD normally use unit 0, so I enter 0. Okay, partition your hard drive, unit 0, yes. Alright, it says an error has occurred, so yeah, I'm not sure what happened. And now we should have 2 partitions, one called HD1 and one called HD0, and we have that here, but they're not formatted, so just select that and use the format tool, format disk. We just call it work for Workbench, and I guess we can just do a quick format. That completed, we now have one empty hard drive called work. Then we're gonna format the other one, call that play. So it comes out with the format failure, not a valid DOS disk, but still it does the job, so not really sure why that happens. Yeah, now we can install. We're gonna install Workbench now onto the hard drive, the English version. The installation should be pretty straightforward. You just need to click through it and yeah, next, finished. Volume work is not validated. Disk is not validated. Okay, we need to validate the disk first, and how do we do that? So I Google a bit, and it seems like when Workbench doesn't completely format the disk and can't finish it off, so I'm trying a full format here, but that seems to take a very long time. I finally managed to format both partitions correctly, and the reason it didn't work first was that I made two large partitions. You can have maximum 2 GB partitions in this version of our Workbench. So I just made two partitions at around 2 gig each, and that formatted without any error messages. So now it should be okay to install here and try once more. Yeah, now it works. So change over to the next floppy is just a push of the button. Alright, so that completed without issue. I had to swap between the floppies back and forth. It was not running consecutively from 1 through 6. Yes, then of course I need to do some customizations, or yeah, go through some of the necessary settings. I changed a little bit of the colors, and now I'm going to change the keyboard type here so I can type the Norwegian letters. Yeah, and that seems to work. Next I want to do is to install WHDLoad, and the reason I want to do that is because while most of the games were made to run off floppy disks, and many of them couldn't be installed on a hard drive, it is possible by using a WHDLoad to install most games onto the hard drive and run them directly from the hard drive. No need for floppy disk images. In order to copy files the most efficient way to my Amiga, I actually just took the whole CF card out of the Amiga and put it in this PC that has a CF card reader. However, you cannot access an Amiga formatted drive directly in Windows, so I'm using WinUIA here, the Amiga emulator. And if you go into CD and hard drives, you can add a real hard drive here, and it actually supports Amiga formatted hard drives. So here it's set up, compact flash 1, it found it here in the list of hard drives there, and I set the properties to be type 0, CF, Commodore A600, 1200, A4000 IDE, and then I just added it, and also I added a local directory on this PC called ctemp Amiga, so that I get access to my PC from the Amiga, and then I can just copy files into that folder. And then on the Amiga emulator here, you can see I have started the emulator with the CF card, and we see what I set up, my play and work partitions, and also here PC1, which is the local Windows folder here on my PC. It's empty now. So now I just use the Amiga CLI and write the copy command to copy all the files from my local PC over to the Amiga hard drive. Alright, back at the Amiga, and now it's time to start to install stuff here and go into the shell. And yeah, I made a folder called temp. Okay, look what's finally arrived after a couple of weeks waiting. It's the keyboard membrane. Okay, so I found this on eBay, and it comes from Retro Hacks DE, and it was kind of expensive. Total with shipping was 54 euros. But here it is, and I'm gonna replace it right away. Looks to be alright quality, hopefully it is. It will probably last my lifetime with this machine. Then we have the fun task of removing all those screws once more. Oops. So this is the old membrane that I fixed, and too bad my fix didn't last very long. And in with the new fancy membrane from Germany. There's the label there. It says QWERTY and date 15 June 22 and number 70. So I have a low serial number here. That's it. Now in with the screws again. Okay, let's insert the flat flex cable into the connector. Hopefully there's no issues with the connector. Yeah, that fits. Let's see now. F2 keyboard. Okay, at least F2 works. Now, seems to be fine. Yeah. Everything works, even the caps lock LED. All keys worked, and yeah, the membrane seems to be very good and doesn't require a lot of force to enter a key, but still not too light force either. So yeah, perfect. So now I just copied all the files that I had in the temp folder. Somehow they were placed in a folder called dot directory, but now it's in temp. And yeah, most of the things you download for Amiga is compressed into these LHA archives. It's kind of a zip file, and Amiga OS doesn't come with the LHA command to unpack them, so that's the first thing I'm gonna install. And I have the lha.run. Successful. Then I just copy the LHA_68020, which is for this CPU, into work:\C, and I call the command LHA, just that. So now we should be able to just type LHA to run AS. Then I'm gonna extract the WHDLoad package. Okay, so now it works. So this takes quite a while. It's not what you're used to on your Windows PC. This takes time. So that's unpacked, but still not installed, so we need to install it. So just run the install script, I guess. So how was this? Install is a script. Was it exec? Nope. So it turns out that to be able to install something with an installer, you actually need to install the installer program first. And yeah, I just copied that into the hard drive now, and I'm extracting the installer. So now that's extracting, and from what I understand, you just copy the installer program directly into the C folder of Workbench, like that. Alright, so now we should be able to install WHDLoad. But instead of trying to run it from the shell, I'm gonna copy everything into this WHD install drawer here in Workbench. No, just as a note, I did copy files from my PC using the Amiga emulator. However, instead of doing all this unzipping and copying on the actual Amiga, I could have done that in the emulator. Maybe I have saved some time then. So now we should have install here. Let's see now if this works. Yes, okay. Proceed with install. I'm gonna install for real. Okay, so the installation is now complete. Then it's finally time to copy some WHDLoad games, and I made a drawer here on my play partition called games. Obviously I should have installed some directory opus or directory management program here to make it easier and don't have to use the shell all the time, but yeah. I'll install that later, I guess. And here I have Speedball, SimCity. I'm gonna start with Secret of Monkey Island first. Extract that to play games. Now I guess this is kind of a big archive, so it is gonna take a while. No, that didn't take too long. It took 2-3 minutes, I think. While I'm at it, I'm also gonna extract the other ones. Speedball 2 and SimCity. Okay, if we go back to the games drawer now on the hard drive, we should find the games. Yeah, it's a little bit spread out. There's SimCity. I'm just gonna arrange the icons, make a little bit tidy desktop. Alright, so does it work? Secret of Monkey Island. Okay, it says object not found, kick. Right, that did not work. SimCity then. Same. Speedball. That one worked. The other ones, probably some components I'm missing on my Amiga. Didn't work. So that's kind of a bummer. I need to investigate that. What do we need to install to pass by this error? Look at that! I was finally able to start the Secret of Monkey Islands. How did I do it? Well, I'm gonna show you in a minute. Just gonna enjoy this game intro first. So it turns out that to be able to run the old games that have requirements on the older Kickstart versions, you actually need to copy the Kickstart ROMs onto your machines, and you need to place them in a folder called devs/kickstarts. So I just took all the ROM files from the original Kickstart 3.1 CF card that I had and copied them into this one, and there they are. So you need to find those and download those files and copy them into this devs/kickstarts directory. So now maybe the Speedball 2 also works. Let's check out SimCity then. Yeah, that worked fine. Nice. Alright, now I can fill up this hard drive with lots of games and stuff, and yeah. Just wanted to show you how you can do your own setup. You obviously can buy ready-made CF cards like I did, but always nice to know how to set up and configure it yourself.